DSI Live. Welcome, everyone, and welcome, Chuck Blakeman. Thank you for
Hey,
being here with us, Chuck.
great to be here. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Great to be seen, right? That's what my dad would always say.
That's right. It's great to be seen.
Yeah, great to be seen. So, many of you know Chuck, who Chuck was with us for the Jumpstart, last Jumpstart 2020. It feels like a long time ago. It was just 2 months
Wow,
ago.
amazing.
As our Jumpstart 2020 session, and shared with us some amazing philosophies and strategies there about growing our businesses. And I asked Chuck to come today to share some ideas on what we as speakers and consultants, as business owners, as organizations out there that are hiring speakers and are pulling together meetings, ask Chuck to come share with us his thoughts on what we should do as business owners during this time, how we can be productively working on our businesses, and then also would love to chat about, like, as we roll forward through that next period of disruption, as we all like get back to work, where our focus should be there. So, Chuck, with that introduction, let's just start with how are you?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm incredible and I'm grieving, and I'm incredible and I'm grieving, and we're all doing the same thing together. And anybody who says anything different is blowing smoke. But generally, I'm just really, in so many ways, incredibly excited about what is happening, and I'm grieving.
Yeah, it's definitely a strange period of time,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like, that we've never seen, and it kind of, I think for me, what is challenging is, as somebody who's pretty goal oriented, it's hard to have a goal when you know where the target's going to be.
Well, in the Iranian hostage crisis back in the 1980s, people say, where did the 11 o'clock news came from? It was actually that this guy Ted Koppel started every night following this thing. Every night he'd have a little half-hour report on the Iranian hostage crisis, and people started watching that to the point where they started reporting on other things, and then other stations did it. Now we have 11 o'clock news, 10 o'clock news, whatever yours is. That's where that came from, and watching that one time, I watched. There was a psychologist on, and they were talking about what the difference to what it is, what it means to be a hostage, and she said it will do more damage to these people's lives to be a hostage for 6 months than it would to be a prisoner in a prison for 10 years.
Wow.
And she said it's because of the unknowns.
Mm.
Another friend of mine, Tasha Urich, who wrote a New York Times bestseller, she said, she taught me once, maybe 10 years ago, the worst of human conditions is uncertainty. There's nothing that makes us more unhappy and more unsettled. And that's what a hostage is. There's no environment in the world that is more uncertain than a hostage situation.
You have no
Anybody feel like a hostage right now?
Yeah, right. You have no control. And thank you for saying anybody. Which, let me do a little shout out here to. I know we have several people that are tuned in right now. Please, in the comments, say hey to Chuck. Let us know you're here. Let us
Yes.
know who you are. Thank you for tuning in this afternoon. So let's talk more about what we can control. There's so much we can't control right now, and really, I'm so proud of us as a world for leaning in together and trying to, help us get through this thing. I mean, in so many ways, it's been uniting, and that's something we can control is our response to the pandemic. Now, what can we do as far as our businesses?
Yeah.
What can we control there?
It's a great question. Another thing somebody taught me 30 years ago, 90% of life is what you make happen, and 10% is what happens to you. Well, we just got hit by the 10%. Okay, fine. Grieve, cry, worry about it a little bit, and then get back to the 90%. What can I control? So I think you're dead on. That's where we need to be investing our energy. So I've got an analogy for us all right here, right now, or a picture that I think we should all take with us. I've been working with this mental picture every day. Picture, it's the difference between a roller coaster and one of those little 5-foot kiddie slides. When people are going over the top of a roller coaster and coming back down the other side for the first time over the top, coming down, what are they doing? Screaming like crazy. We are coming down. We're on the downside of the roller coaster. The economies are nothing more, nothing less than roller coasters. They go up.
Mm.
But when we come down, it's scary, it's frightening, and we're screaming. The difference is we have the opportunity to treat it like an 18-month-old baby on one of those 5-foot kiddie slides. If you're on a roller coaster, you don't have any control over it, man. That thing is going to accelerate as much as it wants all the way down. But we can do what an 18-month-old, we can grab the sides of the slide and we can wedge our feet into the edges of the slide and we can inch our way down. Don't do it. Not do it. I've studied enough of depressions and recessions over the last years to know that the companies that come out of these things successfully are the ones that accelerate on the way down. They go for the ride. They take the momentum and they use it to get back up, because that's how you're going to get out of the roller coaster. You use the momentum coming down to go back up.
Yeah.
If we don't use that momentum right now, we're going to be pushing our cart up the other side when other people are going to be zooming right past.
Yeah, it's such a great analogy.
It is a great analogy, and it's a true analogy. Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper were two of the hundreds of bottling companies that came out of the Great Depression that went in. Hundreds went in, and only a few came out. And one of the reasons that they came out and other companies came out successful was this is what they were doing. They were busier going down than they were coming up.
That was what we were just talking about before we hopped on here. I asked Chuck how many of these you've done today. I think you said you've already done 4.
4 or 5.
I'm busier than I've ever been, right? Which is, as you said, a good thing.
Yeah. And so the first thing we need to be thinking about is, okay, this is a roller coaster. Roller coasters go down, and the faster they go down, the better prepared we'll be to come up. So how do we use that? How do we use the downward momentum of this thing to come back out? What do we need to do? What can I control? Don't control hunkering down. Don't cocoon. Don't invest. Don't spend your days watching Netflix. Seriously, you should be so busy you don't have time to watch anything. You don't have time to read. You don't have time to. Let's just get after this. And it's the reinvention process. So that's the analogy. And then the image we have of ourselves. Guess what? Oh. You are a startup.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
We're all startups again.
Yeah.
Remember how much fun that was, that when you decided to go out on your own and be a speaker or a consultant or a dentist, or, hey man, this is exciting. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if what I'm selling is at the right price, or even if it's the right product or service. I don't know who my clients are. I don't know how this is going to work out. Boy, am I excited.
Yeah.
But instead of, oh no, all the same things are happening, but we're saying, well, I'll kill. Well, we got to get past that and figure out how do we reinvent ourselves? How do we use what's going on? So think about what's going on about you and reimagine yourself going in a different direction and being somebody new in some different way. So that's what we've been doing. We've reinvented ourselves in multiple ways, and I can say with confidence we haven't yet to date had any drop in our revenue. Doesn't matter.
So a question for you, Chuck. So I hear what you're saying, and Lanny, thank you for your comments here. She's reimagining a startup, a disruptive innovation.
Yeah.
It's great, and thank you all we've got several people here joined in. Please be sure you say hello to Chuck. Let us know you're watching, and we'd love to hear your comments and questions. So I'd like to go a little more specific on this. So we're saying now's the time to be working. I think that one obvious challenge to me would be, how do I know what it's going to look like after this? Like, as I think about my business and I'm now in this startup mentality, and I know I need to be like pivoting and modifying my programs, what do you suggest as far as our consulting offerings, our speaking topics?
Yeah.
Do you suggest that we create something for now and then also like modify it into the later? Let me just throw one other thing in here. Another great analogy Paul Homily shared with us the other day was like we're in the eye of the hurricane. there was all the disruption. I love that too. That we're about to have another disruptive period. So it feels like those might be two different offerings. The right now, the limbos, and that disruption as we
Yeah,
come back.
and so and they might be, and they might not be, and so for me, what would help me more is to not think about now and then. I just think about business and serving people, and I ask myself, I live here and I live now, and I look around and say, what do people need, and how can I get them that? And from that, I fully anticipate that what I'm beginning to offer as a startup again will evolve.
Mm.
And it'll evolve to then, whatever then is. But there's no the difference in the analogies here is in a hurricane, all of a sudden you're back into the hurricane again. And the future will not come to us like a hurricane. It's already here, and it's going to gradually unfold as over the next 5 years or 2 years or whatever it is. So we just need to reinvent ourselves and realize that the reinvention starts now. And I have two favorite quotes that come out of this. One is mine, and one is Amar Baidi, who is a Harvard business professor. Mine is, planning doesn't create movement. Movement creates the plan. If you want to figure out where you should be 3 years from now, get moving, because you will not figure it out in a vacuum or by reading books or studying crap. And get moving, do something.
Build that rocket ship as you're on your way to the moon.
Yeah, and make the parachute on the way down. I mean, seriously, you will not get your plan by figuring it out. You'll get your plan by movement. Movement or planning doesn't create movement. Movement creates a plan. Amar Baidi said in his book on entrepreneurship, 97% of businesses leave their prime objective in order to be successful. That's in normal time. And when I read that, I said, really, only 97%? Because when you're a startup, you think you're going to do X, and you end up doing X plus a little bit of Y and Z, or none of X, a little bit of Y. You're going to move around. So let's just get moving. And in that context, we're going to find ourselves in a new world. I also believe that some of the things that we're coming up with right now are going to be lasting products and services for us as the economy recovers.
So we take this even one step further. The way we know what our clients need would be, we need to be reaching out to our existing client base, to our past clients. We need to be reaching out to planners. We need to be in contact with people. We need to not be socially distant, but physically distant. We need to be very socially active, actually, and more in reaching out and connecting. Would you agree?
Yeah. So there's three things. That's the third thing that I would say we could be doing right now. Let's get practical about riding the roller coaster down. What does that mean? How can I be busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger right now? And there's three things that we can do. Number one is, the first thing is conserve cash and get cash. If you have not applied for the EIDL and the 17 other things, if you don't have a credit line with your bank, go get one. If you have one, ask for an increase. If you have a credit line with your bank that you're happy with, go get another one from a second bank. Get every bit of cash you can right now. And the reason for that is the mantra in these kind of environments is expect the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
And what if we get the best, you still have all this cash laying around that you might be finding great opportunities for, or you just give no harm, no foul.
Back, yeah.
So that's number one, is you should be busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger, just conserving cash, going through what you're spending and seeing what you conserve personally as well as a business, and then go get money. There are so many opportunities to get great money. The EIDL behind the initial advance, it's a 3.75% 30-year loan. It's nearly free money. The PPP is at half of 1%. It's nearly free money. Credit lines and that kind of stuff, you don't even have to touch them until you need them. That's free money. So get money. That's number one. The second thing is get your house in order. All those things you weren't doing because you were too busy, processes, protocols. I'm a big fan of freedom mapping and vision, and get your strategic plan together and get your big why sorted. You should be so busy getting that stuff so solid, so when you come up roaring out the other side, you know exactly who you are, exactly where you're going, and the processes are in place, and you just hit the ground running. That's number two. And then number three is you should be doing everything you can to be as visible as you to your clients. What do you do to serve them right now? Both paid and unpaid, doesn't matter. How do you stay in front of them in a way that they actually want to hear from you? So those three things, if we apply those three things, there's no possible way we have opportunities to do a noon Netflix binge.
True story. Tiger King. I don't even know what that's about. I'm a cat lady, so it's like everybody's talking about Tiger King. But I'm like, ain't nobody got time for that. So okay, let's talk a little bit more about this idea of, especially I think this is meaningful to people who are speakers and consultants who have an existing program that they're
Yeah.
offering now. So most of us have years of experience. We have an existing client base. We have previous clients. So we reach back, we get in touch, we hear from them, we have some guesses as to what their challenges or pain points would be now, but by actually making that connection, that helps solidify a relationship. Well, it also gives us valuable information as we pivot. Would you agree? It helps us hear where is there a need right now? How can we fill that need?
Yeah, it's a great question. We again, we need to reinvent the way we do things. One of the things we're doing that would fall into that category is we're offering mastermind groups to our clients to do with their clients. So here's a let's say there's a dental organization or a dental product company that have dentists, and right now nothing's happening. Well, you've got dentists who trust you. You've got dentists who need help. What if you put together a 12 or 15 person mastermind group, charge them $100 a month, just a little bit, $50, something to say you're in, and let's do this and let's get together once a week for an hour, and I'll lead the thing for you. Everybody out there that's part of the Dental Speakers Institute, they're all really great at facilitating this stuff. Go to your clients and say, I'll help you with your clients. I'll lead something once a week to help you guys come together and become strategic alliance partners for each other, and let's figure this out together. How do you get your house in order? How do you get ready for when the dentists come back? What can you do to stay in front of them? Let's start redesigning ourselves that way.
So you're suggesting, I love this idea, it's a subscription-based service that would be at a low price point that many doctors would still be able to financially make work. Amongst all the fears of finances, they'll still be able to do that. And so right now, until we go back to work, having a weekly mastermind for dental practice owners.
Yeah. And doing therapy. I mean, it's not therapy, just being human together. I've got one client who at 9:00 every night is sponsoring a Best Thing Today Zoom every night with her family, her friends, and her business owners. And she's got 10 or 15 or 20 people hitting it every night. What was your best thing today? What was your best thing today? What was your best thing today? Happy hours. We're starting a happy hour every Friday afternoon. By the way, it's BYOB.
We're starting one this week too. We're calling our Friday Fun Day. And when you've got people like across literally 8 hours of time zones from Hawaii to Bermuda, we're doing like afternoon Pacific. And so some people will have their wine at noon, some will have it at 8 at night.
Somebody's going to have a mimosa for breakfast, and somebody else is going to have a whiskey.
At home anyway, right? Yeah. I think there's real value in all that. I think there's also the flip side is that it's everywhere right now, right? So there's becoming really a lot of noise. Like even right now as we do our live session, and thank you guys so much. We've got several people who are here with us. Hey, Gary. Hey, Lanny. Hey, Adriana, Sherry, Jennifer. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your comments. And if you have any questions here, put them in I'm watching along here. If you have any
I've got one here I want to address when we do it. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think we have to find that balance between too much and not enough, right? Like my business has taken to the airwaves because I have literally hundreds of clients, and like for me to call every one of them would be unwieldy. And so I'm trying to find a way to be able to work. I'm still one-on-one with my existing clients working on projects, but for me to reach back to every past client, it's just there's not enough hours in the day. So trying to find that middle ground. So think about what's in you, what works for you and your business, and how can you be in contact with as many of them as you can, and be able to offer something like, I love the idea of the social hour, because many of us are outgoing as speakers, and we're not necessarily introverts naturally. The larger group of us, and I think there's probably a little bit of going on. So to be able to see our colleagues and share, the other side of that too is the hope that it brings. I think there's something about getting up, dressing, putting on your work clothes, showering, coming together and seeing like world can head back to normal, and to talk to people who are in the same boat as you and share ideas, I think is really valuable. So you had a question here that you wanted to
Yes, well, it's a statement somebody made that I want to address. It's really important. Somebody said some of us are not eligible for the stimulus money, I think that's, well, let's just address that. If you are an employee of someone else and your pay has been reduced by 1%, you are eligible for unemployment, partial unemployment. So that's new. That's never been the case before. There's this thing called partial unemployment. If you work for yourself, and I mean, the analogy I was given by the SBA was, if you walked 50 dogs before, and somebody quit walking quit their dog, and now you only have 49, you are eligible for unemployment. You don't have to be unemployed. You can own your own business and have your business go down, and you are eligible for unemployment. And yes, you may not get a lot in terms of traditional unemployment, but you will be eligible for the $600 a week stimulus package, which is $2,600 a month, because you have filed for unemployment. That's just if you're employed. The PPP process, if you are a solo practicer, a solo proprietor, if you own your own speaking business and it's a person of one, absolutely this applies to you. And you could end up with $5, $10, $15, $20,000 in grants that you never have to pay back from the PPP. EIDL takes you 5 to 10 minutes to fill out the form. You will get a minimum of $1,000 that you will never have to pay back. I could keep going. This stimulus package applies to everybody. So that's false information that someone has given you. And we have a thing called the Thrival Funding Guide that we've put out there that will help you attach to, that you can see how you can get this money.
I think part of the challenge is if someone is like newer in business and they don't have last year's taxes, that I think that might be applying here. So I applied for my PPP loan through Chase like 10 days ago and have heard crickets after I got my email. So I'm hoping to hear something soon. And my understanding is Chase is like the worst place I could have done that.
Well, it's one of the 4 worst. There's 3 others that are just as bad.
I read that they had the most number of loans and requests, Yeah. So, okay, so let's get back to our topic. So get money, get your house in order, be visible to clients. So it feels like the be visible to clients will help you with number 2, the getting your house in order, because once you get your head around what your clients are needing, then that's going to help you go back and rewrite some processes.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit more about that? Like I can see our strategy changing, our business, our strategic plan. Talk to us a little bit more about how we can, besides if we didn't have those things in place to start with, let's say we had our process descriptions done and everything, which of course we do. We should.
Yes.
So what is there more that we can expand upon there with getting your house in order?
Yeah. So one of the things would be using what's going on right now and asking yourself first, what do my clients need that would be of value to them? Okay. So if you're a speaker, they don't need me to show up at a speaking engagement. I've had multiple speaking engagements canceled, but I've also had some that were moved online in really great ways. So there's a possibility to help with that kind of stuff. You could also extend your services. We had one that was canceled, and instead of having it, I offered to do a webinar for them. And they thought that was great. And so we did a webinar, and they paid me to do the webinar. And they're going to have me do other webinars. And now we have people calling us from the webinar who want to be our clients. And so so it's redesigning, looking at it, and you don't have to say, I'm not a fatalist. And some people are saying the speaking and convention stuff and all, it's never coming back. I don't think that's the case. No. I think we want to get together. We're human beings.
Exactly, for thousands of years. Like, if you think back in history, people.
But But here's the truth. It not having that is revealing other things that we can add to that are going to make us really happy down the road if we're really willing to ride the slide down or ride the roller coaster down fast. So let's be asking ourselves, what do people need right now that they can't get through a speaking convention? And then let's see how we can keep that going afterwards. And one of the big does would be online courses, webinars, and other things that you can productize. Thinking of books, you got to figure out how to productize your services. That would be one of the principles behind this: is how do we productize our services? And some of that stuff is extremely sustainable. And gee, what a surprise! Probably incredibly complementary to the next time you actually do conventions and speak, because now you've got products as well as your Tim Gard did this really well. He has his funny talks, but then they had their funny their university. They charged for $95. They productized that and said, hey, we'll send you a joke of the day every day, that kind of stuff. You got to figure that out.
And when you have diversify your business that way, you don't feel these challenging economic times as much, because you have your eggs aren't all in one basket, right? Like you have speaking, you have consulting, you have online sales, you have products, you have multiple ways and different price points ultimately for people to engage with you. So we have a couple more questions here. Hey, Stephanie, Elise, thank you guys. Teresa, thank you guys for watching. Elise asked us about sharing the links to those resources you were sharing a minute ago.
So,
SPF.gov would be like
well,
a great
no,
place.
don't go to anything that the government is giving you. And don't go to, I'm sorry, but don't go to anything a bank is giving you, and don't go to anything a lawyer or a wealth manager is giving you. And there's good reasons for that.
Where do you go?
Because if it's more than a day and a half old, it's out of date. And every single one of them, they have to put it through compliance departments with lots of lawyers. And by the time it comes out, it's 2 or 3 days old. And that stuff might as well be fire starters. And this is changing too fast. So I saw that immediately early on. Hey, this is great. Oh, it's out of date. Hey, this is great. Oh, it's out of date. And we put together one that's never going to be out of date. It's called the Survival, or the Surthrival. We don't want people surviving. The Surthrival Funding Guide for Business Owners. Email us at grow@3to5club.com. 3, the numeral 3, TO5, the numeral 5.com. 3to5.com. Put that in the notes. I can't type in here. I would.
I will put that in. So, and I'm not able to type either. I think BeLive, the platform we're using here, is it's not working 100%. I think it's because there's so many people online.
There's a lot of training. Grow at 3to5club.com and just say, send me the Surthrival guide, and we will put you in a special a folder in our database where you will not ever get spammed. The only reason we're asking you to do this is because every time we put out a new version, we will automatically send it to you. And here's why you need this. We started this 10 days ago, Friday, April 4th. We are on our 6th version today.
Yeah, every day.
Almost every other day, we are finding really important stuff that we need to stick in there and send back out to you so that you don't get surprised or you don't miss opportunities. So there it is. And it's grow at. So grow at 3to5. Yeah, so that's the email, grow@3to5club.com. Send out to that.
Thank you, Lanny. Thanks for putting that in there. And it's the Surthrival.
Surthrival Funding Guide. And the next question is answered there. We appreciate info on what to apply for grant for money for sole LLCs and with no employees. That's in there. In spades, how to apply for the PPP, the EIDL, all these other things that you should be doing as a sole proprietor. We went way beyond applying for funding from the government. There's all kinds of tips in there about what to do with your mortgage and why, and how to work with your retirement fund, and all kinds of tips that would be valuable to people that we're keeping up to date on a regular basis. This is one of the ways that I'm busier than a one-armed wallpaper hanger. I'm on the phone. I was on the phone with the SBA directly today for at least 2 hours with 3 different people. And that's just going on every day with anybody I can get my hands on, trying to clarify the nonsense coming out of the government.
Do you know, in that situation where you apply for the PPP, if you only hear crickets, can you apply somewhere else, or do you have to apply where your business bank account is? Do you know that?
No, you don't. That's one of the things that's in the guide. We have found 9 sources that are online. And two of the newest ones just came out yesterday. This is why you need to get this guide. Two of them came out yesterday. Square and PayPal are now offering PPP loans, SBA banker loans. It's like, who would have? Yeah, your head's about to explode. Fundera, seven other companies online, and you can just apply with PayPal or Square or seven others of these that are in the guide, all in one place. And we don't make you hunt for it. Just click on the name, and it'll take you right to the application.
That's awesome. And so work with your accountant. For those of you who have not done this yet, work with your accountant. They can get all the paperwork
Information.
You have to be able to submit your proof of the payroll that you had from last year, and you have to figure out how much 1 month is, and then you times it by 2.5, and it figures it all out on the application.
And then be way more patient than you should have to be. But you're going to get this money, the PPP, the EIDL. You're going to get a minimum. If it's just one of you, you're going to get $1,000 free from the EIDL. It might take weeks. You're going to get it, and you're going to get a lot more from the other one. And then the EIDL loan itself, this money is out there, and a lot of it's going to end up in your bank account with no reason to pay it back the way they've designed it.
So I want to just be sure, I want to ask you a question, and you can tell me, hey, this is not my area of expertise, and I just don't know, but it sounds like you guys have done a lot of research here. And to clarify, for those of you who haven't done the PPP loan yet, my question is, so I already submitted mine to Chase 10 days ago. I immediately, within 12 hours, received a, hey, we've got your application. You'll hear from us. Don't call us. You'll hear from us. I haven't heard anything in 10 days. So my understanding is I'm probably going to hear back from them at some point saying it's approved, and I think I have to probably sign something, don't I?
Yeah. So there's two ways that's being handled by the banks. One of those messages actually means we've got your loan and we're not doing anything with it right now.
That's probably what I have.
We just got it. It's sitting here. We got it. Yeah. Another one would be, hey, we got it. It's been applied. It's been submitted, and sometime in the next week or 10 days or 2 weeks, you'll hear from us that you've either been accepted or rejected. That's the second one. The first one is the most common with the 4 largest banks when they say, hey, hang in there. So I would go. I don't want you. I really discourage you going to 7 different places, applying to 7 different places. But these other places online, they will tell you right away that they've gotten it, they've applied it. So you might want to go there. It doesn't help in some cases to have a relationship with a bank unless you have some interest-bearing vehicle that you already have with them, a credit card, a commercial loan. If you are already paying them interest, they're going to pay attention to you. Many of the banks have said, even I've had friends who had a banking relationship for 10 years with a bank, and they said, hey, you're way back. We're not even going to think about you because you don't have you're not paying us any interest right now. You've just had a $50,000 a month credit checking account with us. Not good enough.
Yeah. Well, so here's my question: is if for someone who wants to jump ship, like I would really love to jump out of the Chase pool of just waiting with the other hundreds of thousands of people, and if I was to jump over to PayPal or somewhere,
it won't hurt you.
It won't hurt me because I won't be in trouble with the government because I still have to be approved. I have to sign on a dotted line before I get money, right?
Yeah.
So if Chase comes back later and says I can't double dip, in other words.
You can't double dip. You only have one a Social Security number or EIN number, whichever one you're using, and whoever puts that in first, the government has that. And if somebody else tries to submit for you, it'll bank it right up or push it right up against that. It'll get rejected. Okay. There's no double. Somebody said here they're still not clear on the correct web address. It's not a web address. It's an email address, and it's the second one. Grow at the little sign at grow at 3to5club.com. So it's like Chuck Blakeman at gmail.com. It's grow at 3to5club.com. That's the email address. Just send in there for the Survival Guide, and we'll put you on the list.
Oh gosh, Chuck, this is amazing. I wish we could talk for 3 more hours. The 3 to 5 clubs is something we haven't even chatted about. We should do that another day.
Another day.
And thank you guys for watching. I'm sitting here watching. We've got a lot of DSI members, a lot of jump starters who know you've come in and are Cindy, Dana, Leslie, Karen, Alan, Stephanie. We've got a lot of great members here. Thank you guys for being here and for your comments. And we love having you following and watching us. So what Chuck has been sharing with us are, what can we do now? How can we pivot in our businesses so that we can go forward in this kind of uncertain economy and be able to thrive? And he's offered a great resource. If you email grow@3to5.com, you can receive
3to5club.
3to5club.com.
Yeah, grow at 3 to 5. Oh, yeah, that's not in there. Oh, I'm seeing that. Grow at 3 to 5 club. There it is, right there. That one you just got put in. That's it.
We got it. And we can ask for our survival funding guide for business owners that will help walk us through some of those stimulus package options for business owners, which there's so much to unpack, right, in this particular topic. Let's pull it around and wrap it up with, as we get back to our topic of how we pivot. I know that when you and I talked about a month ago, and it was shortly after Hinman, for me, I knew the sky was falling when Hinman made the wonderful and absolutely right decision to cancel their meeting, but that was when I was like, something's happening here. Really, So, and then you and I talked shortly thereafter, and you were telling me about you were pulling together with an offering for business owners. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more about.
Yeah.
And I remember it clearly because it has the name of my city in the name.
That's right.
Phoenix Rising. Tell us more about your clubs.
Yeah, and this will be, I want everyone on the call to use this just as an example of how you can ask yourself the same question. How do I serve people now? How do I stay in front of my clients in a way that will serve them? That was the question that gave rise to this. And what we saw was that everybody's watching the news and getting bummed out because there's nothing good coming out of the news. It's just awful. So, and there doesn't seem to be any news, and you can't even drive down the street, and all you'd see is that there's nobody in the streets, which reminds you that things are bad. Everything's bad, we'll all be killed. So what do people need? Well,
Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. So they're either going to bury themselves in Netflix, or let's give them some good business news. So on a Thursday afternoon, we thought about this thing, and we said, we're going to create a show every Monday morning to start people's weeks, to just give them something exciting, something encouraging to start off on a positive note, because there's nothing else going on that's positive. And we're going to highlight business people who are doing exactly what we're talking about here today, riding a roller coaster down and figuring it out and doing incredibly new things. The first week we had a guy on who owned a whiskey distillery called Big Fat Pastor Whiskey. And they stopped making whiskey and they started making sanitizer, and they were giving it away to hospitals for free. I mean, we had people on the call crying. We just want to, what are you doing to pivot? Let's highlight those people. So we thought, well, what's the image that we could use most for that? And it was the rising phoenix. The phoenix bird has to be burnt up completely into ashes, and from that comes an even greater bird. So risingphoenixbusinesscommunity.com. We thought about that on a Thursday afternoon. We connected with some people we'd never met before the next morning, and we spent 4 days programming it, and we had our first show the next Monday morning, and we've had 4 shows now. So join us on risingphoenixbusinesscommunity.com, 9 a.m. Mountain Time, and we've got people from Ireland, people from South Africa. It's just so much fun. And if you've got a story of how you've pivoted, we'd love to get you on there for a minute to share your story. Go to risingphoenixbusinesscommunity.com, and you'll see a button for Be Featured. Get on the show, and let's do that.
So that's Monday morning, 9 o'clock Mountain Time.
Yep.
And so is that like a Zoom meeting we're in?
Yeah, it's a Zoom meeting. Yep. So you just click on the button on the website, and it'll take you right into the meeting. The button won't be alive until about 15 minutes before. And so it's just a big Zoom meeting, and we got 50, 75, 100, 150 people, and then thousands listening to it afterwards. But it's more fun to be there live, and it's participative. It's not. It's a show about everybody's in the chat session answering the questions and solving each other's problems. So it's highly participative. It's just a real positive kick in the pants. And I want you to see it. Okay, great. Yeah, go to this. But I want you to think of this just as, well, here's how Chuck pivoted. Here's how Chuck did it. So but use the principle. Ask yourself the same question. How do we solve things for our clients? How do we stay in front of them in a way that would actually serve them?
And I think we will also get a lot of motivation and inspiration and empowerment from being in a group that's really doing what we all need to do in order to be relevant.
And people are making connections all over the world. It's kind of fun. Hey, let's talk offline. We might be able to help each other.
That's awesome. Well, Chuck, this has been so helpful. I always love chatting with you. And I love being able to share you and your personality. This is raw Chuck Blakeman. From the years that we worked together and the coaching sessions, I just know how brilliant your mind is, and there's no
So
talking to the.
let me show you how raw it really is.
Oh, oh, hey! They don't even match. You know what they do?
They don't even match.
That's
You have
awesome.
to buy 2 pairs to get them to match.
There you go.
They purposefully don't match.
That's awesome. Well, before we go, is there anything we haven't talked about that would be a final thought, anything important that you'd like to leave with our members? And let me also shout out to, we've got Maria and Rachel here now. We've got such a great group that's followed us here online. Thank you guys for being interactive and sharing your thoughts here with Chuck. It looks like we've got our questions answered. So is there anything you want to leave us with, Chuck?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm supposed to do a talk at a very large conference in July. We'll see what happens. But it's about being relentless. And one of my favorite statements that I've been saying for years, boy, some of these things come home to roost in really important ways at times. Some of you may have heard me say this. Circumstances don't make me who I am. How I respond to them does. Circumstances don't make me who I am. How I respond to them does. So this is the circumstance we find ourselves in. How are we going to respond? Let's be relentless. This is not for the smart. This is not for the lucky. This is for those who are going to pivot and be busier than the one-armed wallpaper hanger and take this ride down as fast as you can and be relentless about coming up the other side. So it's easy to say, hard to do, but let's help each other do that. Stay in community.
Oh, absolutely. It's a real leadership moment too, right? Isn't it? I mean, the leaders are the ones that are going to jump in and figure it out. None of us that have the exact answer. We're just figuring it out, and we'll pivot and we'll adjust, we'll tweak, as you say. What was your quote? You thought it was 97% of the businesses will.
Yeah, Amar Baidi said 97% of businesses pivot from their prime objective in order to be successful. And I thought, really, only that many?
Right. It's continually pivoting. So really, not in any way to diminish the seriousness of the health aspects of what's happening here. But I just want to say something. I have to give that precursor because I am not insensitive to the fact that there are people that are losing their lives.
Yeah.
And if we can subscribe to the belief that things that happen to us in life can serve us, then that can help us with our mindset to recognize that if that's the case, then maybe there's not anything wrong going on here. Maybe it's just the next challenge, and it's the next opportunity for us to level up, the next opportunity for us to grow as leaders in our businesses, but also to really make a difference in the world. And
that's not insensitive at all. We almost called the Rising Phoenix Business Community Hour the Aikido Hour. And I'm not an Aikido expert by any means, but Aikido is basically, it's a martial art that uses the energy coming at you. And that's what we want to do. Let's use the energy coming at us.
And turn it. Yeah, and dance with it. I love Aikido. I don't do Aikido. I don't know if you know this. I'm actually a black belt in Taekwondo.
Oh, you go, girl.
I don't practice anymore, but I hold the black belt. But at the time, I remember thinking I should have chosen Aikido because it is just like this most amazing martial art where I love that analogy.
Use the energy coming at you for your own benefit.
Yeah, and just turn it and dance with it. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you again. Thank you, Anna. We have Anna and Hannah joining us. Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here. You'll have to head back to the beginning of this recording and listen. It'll be ready here in just a minute. Chuck, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thanks, Vanessa. We love your leadership. We love you.
Well, likewise, love having you as a faculty member at Dental Speaker Institute.
Yeah.
And thank you all for being here today and participating. We love you all. Be well. Know that you're here. Know that we're here for you. Know that you're supported. If there's anything you need, reach out. info@thedentalspeaker.com. And Chuck, how do we reach you?
You can just reach me at chuckblakeman.com. That's my website. or chuck@cranksetgroup.com.
Great. And so we will see you at Rising Phoenix Business Community Monday morning at 9 Mountain. And until next time, everyone, be well, and thanks again for joining us here.
Ride that roller coaster down.
That's right. Whee!